Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Cab app. I want to get into a little deeper dive into the Black app. And the Black app we call the full app. Let's open it up. And some of the things that I wanted to point out and I wanted to look at was how we can share our operations and where the operations show up. So basically, when we open it up in the top right corner, we can see all operations and people that share their information with us. And now remember, growers, you own your information, you own your data. You can share your operation with whoever you want. That's done from the laptop. We do that from the desktop. And what we do then is we can share information at different levels. If customers want to share their information, but don't want to share maybe yield data, or if they only want to share one field with a certain representative, whether it's a seed rep or an elevator or anybody, an agent, they're able to do that. So before we go into that, Andrea, I want you to take me through a little bit about the rainfall and the whole weather piece.
Yeah, for sure. So, first tile, and when you open up your Black app, there at the top is rainfall. I'm going to click into that. And so a couple things. This rainfall data is collected by radar. This data is collected through radar and the local public weather stations that we have here in Saskatchewan and across Canada. So that first number you see, that's since midnight and yesterday, those are all estimated guesses based on that radar cloud coverage and how much rain we think is going to fall. Of course, that can be sort of variable because we get a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of rain that falls, but doesn't actually hit the ground. So it's a lot harder to measure. So sometimes those numbers might not be as accurate, but that season to date, that's something we can often rely on. With that season to date information, we're truing up that satellite information to our local public weather stations, and that gets us really close to what actually falls in those fields.
Oh, perfect. I like to use the compare to 10-year average toggle. So if I toggle all the way over to the right and I click on compare to 10-year average, you can then separate it from which field has the most amount of moisture to which one has the lowest. In season, I would think of this as maybe a trigger on what fields have more opportunity to produce more. Maybe the yield expectations have increased. And if I click on it again, I can see them from the fields that have the least amount of rainfall compared to 10-year average. And those bottom fields, I can start to maybe put in a different bucket. I could put those in the bucket of, I'm maybe not going to put a lot more money into them. I'm not going to top dress. I might not add a fungicide to them. Maybe I would protect with an insecticide if the conditions were right. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to with the rainfall. Next, kind of one of the things that I always like to talk about is the field health imaging and the satellite images and how all of those work. So let's open up that second tile.
Okay, view more. So at the top, you'll notice we have two options, scouting and vegetation. So there are some definite differences between those maps. If we go into vegetation first here, we'll see a lot more browner, darker colored images. These are based on vegetative biomass and are very similar to an NDVI image. The thing about the vegetation maps is we can compare field to field. These are all on the same scale, which is nice. So if I want to look at all of my corn crops and see which one's drying down faster, this could be somewhere where I could go to try to start to get an idea on which fields are drying down.
So I like the scouting images the most. When I'm getting going early in the season, I'm possibly seeding. Stuff is maybe starting to come up. Often we have a little bit of break with a rainfall in between. So I can now go back into the fields and I can see, maybe hot spots that have pointed out. So let's just click on a field. Let's move on to our demo prescriptions. So first of all, at the top, it's going to show the 2020 season. Now, this is going to give us the most current maps that we've had. Now, just for the sake of being able to, have access to a few more maps on March 15th, we didn't have a lot of biomass in the field. So I'm just going to click on 2019 right now, just so we can look at a few more and maybe start to see how often they come in. So here it looks like we had a pretty good run, April 22nd, May 5th, May 15th, May 25th, May 27th. So you can see those coming in quite often. But what we do know is when we get lots of cloud cover, or if we have lots of smoke in the air or something like that, that causes our satellites not to be able to get those images through. So there'll be some images that are maybe cut off a little bit, like on June 21st, it's cut off a little bit. And basically what happens there in those situations is there's either a big shadow from a cloud or a big cloud that has taken over that field. But what I guess I want to show you is let's go to the May 5th.
May 5th.
So if we go May 5th and we look at all the different areas of the field, this basically takes the biomass of the field and it'll show you 5 different zones. It'll show you the places with the highest vegetation biomass and the stuff with the lowest vegetative biomass. And now that's not to say that that's going to be crop or that's going to be yield. If we've done a really good job on mapping our boundaries, which we talked about before, we won't have those tree lines or those waterways in the way. But if we've done a good job, sometimes we'll have weed patches that'll possibly show up. So when I'm going out and I'm looking at these maps, I no longer have to do my crop scouting in a W formation or walk a zigzag formation to see approximately 2% of the field. I can now go into the field with a more strategic approach. So what I always recommend is, go in, walk into the field where you can, and if you find those areas that are red, you can maybe go in and take a look and see what's going on with the biomass. If there's no plants there, if you see these areas getting larger, perhaps there's insects, cutworms, flea beetles, a lot of early season pests that we have. And then you can also go into those darker green areas and see if it is possibly weed patches or areas where things are growing really good, and maybe we can replicate that in other places in the field. Pin dropping, hey, this is a great one. If you click on the top right hand corner, there's 3 dots, and if you have the show my current location on, that'll actually show a blue dot on exactly where you're walking around through the field. If you have that on, at any time you can push drop a pin, which is in the bottom right corner. There's the pin drop button, and that would show you drop it exactly where it is. But if you push it now, drop a pin. And the nice thing about this is when you drop a pin here, it saves in your field for that year indefinitely. And if it's a permanent issue, like if it's a washout or if it's maybe a bad rock that you have a hard time, you can't dig out, so you want to make that year after year, make that a permanent issue. And then I always recommend titling it. So let's go big rock. Add a note. Just maybe caution, larger rock. So then anytime another operator goes through there, they maybe know to slow down if they're gonna run it over, or possibly a combine time.
So I would be able to see that pin in my cab app as well.
Exactly. That's the nice thing about it. You get it in the white app, the cab app, and then also the full app.
What about my phone?
Absolutely. Your Android device, your Apple device, you can have it on either. You're able to download the black app and the full app, so you're able to have access to that.
Perfect.
Other things that you can do here, you can add photos. So if you want, you can click on the add photo, use your camera, and then basically just take a screenshot or a picture of what's going on there in the field. And at the end of the day, you'd be able to tag that photo to that issue that's in the field. And the nice thing about it is sometimes when we're calling our trusted advisor to come out and look, or if something's going on, it might take them a couple of days, maybe 3 days, sometimes a week even, before they're able to make it to that field. Sometimes the crop has outgrown those symptoms that person has seen, they've noticed, so it's hard to find those exact areas. So if you drop those pins and you drop them in the places that you're walking and you're taking your pictures, you're probably able to walk to that specific spot in the field and then see exactly what they've seen.
Oh, cool.
At the end of the day, you're able to share this via text message. So in that area, there's actually a box with an arrow button. That's a more button is what we call it. If you click on the more button, You can email this, you can text message it, and you can send this pin and all of this information to somebody that's not even using FieldView. Even if they're not on it, not using it, if you want to send a pin to the anhydrous person on where exactly you are in your field or where you want him to meet you, you can drop that pin, meet me here at the edge of the field. I'll be there in 2 hours. All of that information will be there and easy to use. It's connected to Google Maps, and they're able to go directly to the spot.
So if I was your agronomist and you were sharing with me, I would also be able to drop pins and send you recommendations through FieldView?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So anytime you go into the field, you want to record crop staging or maybe weed stages, any applications that are possibly needed or recommendations that you would give me in my operation, they could all be recorded there. Take a picture and prove that you were even in my field.
It's always nice to know.